I'm Thomas Reed, 32, and I run a carpentry business in Portland, Oregon. It's not a big operation, just me, a small workshop, and a handful of clients who want custom furniture or home renovations. I love the work, the feel of wood under my hands, turning raw lumber into something lasting. It's honest, hard-earned, and mine. 5 years ago, I left a dead-end office job to start this, and I've never looked back. But last month, my older brother, Ethan, made me feel like my life was something to be ashamed of. He mocked me in front of his fancy friends, called me the poor one, and that was the night I decided to cut him out of my life. This is the story of what happened, how Ethan fell apart, and how I found my ground. Growing up, Ethan and I were tight. He's 3 years older, the bold one with a quick laugh and big dreams. I was quieter, steady, happy to follow his lead. We'd spend hours building forts in the backyard, sharing secrets, planning our futures. If you'd told me back then we'd end up strangers, I'd have laughed. But there were always signs, little digs, like when he'd tease me for liking boring hobbies like woodworking, or smirk when I got a summer job while he partied. I brushed it off, thinking that's just what brothers do. Now, looking back, I see those cracks were deeper than I wanted to admit. Ethan took a different path from me. He's a marketing exec, or was, with a corner office, a luxury condo downtown, and a life straight out of a magazine. He's always posting about his trips to Miami, his tailored suits, his new Audi. It's a world of rooftop bars and name-dropping clients, and he thrives in it. I don't envy him, I like my life, my old pickup, my workshop smelling of sawdust. I make enough, about $70,000 a year, to live comfortably, no debt, no stress. My clients, from homeowners to small businesses, keep me busy. But Ethan? He's always acted like his way is the only way, like my work is some cute hobby, not a real living. Our mom, Ellen, lives in a cozy house in the suburbs, and she's the glue holding our little family together. Dad passed when we were teens, so it's just us three now. Mom loves us both, but she's always had a soft spot for Ethan, her charming golden boy. I get it, he's the one who lights up a room. I'm the one fixing the furniture in it. She's proud of my business, but Ethan's stories about closing big deals or jetting to conferences always steal the show. I never minded much, or at least I told myself I didn't. But every time Ethan made a jab about my manual labor life, it chipped away at something. This all came to a head at a family barbecue Mom was hosting. Ethan was coming, and he'd invited a few of his work buddies, the kind of guys who wear $200 sunglasses and talk about scaling ventures. I didn't love the idea of hanging with them, but it was Mom's night, and I wanted to see her smile. I packed a cooler with beers, threw on a clean flannel, and headed over, expecting a low-key evening. In my truck, I thought about Ethan, how he'd been extra smug lately, texting me photos of his new watch or joking about my cute little projects. I shook it off, telling myself to keep the peace. But deep down, I knew something was brewing. The barbecue would be more than burgers and small talk, it'd be the night everything between us broke. As I drove through Portland's leafy streets, the city's gray-green haze settling in, I felt a familiar knot. Ethan's friends would be there, and he'd be in show-off mode. Mom would try to keep things warm, but Ethan's need to shine always left me in the shade. I gripped the wheel, thinking of the dining table I'd built for Mom last year, how she bragged about it to neighbors. That was my kind of pride, not Ethan's flashy kind. Whatever happened tonight, I'd keep my head high. But I had no idea how far Ethan would push, or how his words would change us forever. I pulled into Mom's driveway, the smell of charcoal already drifting from the backyard. Her house, a tidy ranch with flower beds I'd helped plant, glowed under the evening sun. I grabbed the cooler from my truck and headed around back, where Mom was setting out plates, her smile bright as always. "Thomas, you're here," she said, hugging me tight. Ethan was already there, holding court by the grill, his navy blazer rolled up, a craft beer in hand. His 3 friends, slick guys in slim-fit shirts and loafers, stood around him, nodding at his story about some big client. I set the cooler down, gave Mom a hand with the table, and tried to blend in. But Ethan's eyes flicked to me, and I saw that glint, the one that meant he was about to perform. He sauntered over, his friends trailing. "Guys, this is my little brother, Thomas," he said, his tone light but sharp, like a knife wrapped in velvet. "He's our resident woodworking guy, loves getting his hands dirty." They chuckled, one muttering, "Old school, nice." I forced a smile, shaking hands, ignoring the jab. I'd heard it before, Ethan's way of framing my work as quaint, like I was playing at a trade while he conquered the corporate world. We sat for dinner, burgers and corn on the cob, Mom chatting about her garden club. I relaxed a bit, hoping the night would stay smooth. Then Ethan struck. I was mid-sentence, telling Mom about a new client, when he cut in, loud enough to turn heads. "So, Thomas, how's the carpentry gig? Still hustling for those small jobs?" His friend smirked, one sipping his drink to hide a laugh. I kept my cool, setting down my fork. "It's good," I said. "Just landed a contract to furnish a hotel lobby." "Biggest job yet?" Ethan raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. "A hotel? What, like, a budget motel? Or are you finally playing with the big boys?" The table laughed, and my chest tightened. Mom looked uneasy but didn't speak. I tried to steer things back, but Ethan was on a roll. Over dessert, Mom's peach cobbler, he leaned back, wine glass in hand, and grinned at me. "You know, Thomas once had this wild dream, said he'd own a huge company by 30. Remember that, bro?" I froze. I'd said that as a kid, maybe 15, starry-eyed and naive. He was dragging it out now, knowing it'd sting. "Guess life had other plans," he went on, chuckling. "But hey, you're happy sanding tables, right? Gotta love the simple life." His friends roared, one clapping Ethan's shoulder, saying, "Savage, man." My face burned, the old dream twisted into a punchline. Then came the knockout. Ethan leaned forward, his voice mock casual. "Some folks are just meant to be the poor one in the family, you know? No shame in it, Thomas. Someone's gotta keep it humble." The laughter hit like a wave, his friends practically howling. I looked at Mom, hoping she'd say something, anything. She just gave me a weak smile, like she was scared to rock the boat. My knuckles whitened around my glass. I wanted to fire back, to tell them about my steady clients, my paid-off truck, my life without their fake gloss. But the words stuck. I felt small, like a kid again, overshadowed by Ethan's shine. I stood, my chair scraping the patio. "Gotta head out," I mumbled, avoiding eyes. "Early job tomorrow." Mom started to protest, but I was already moving, grabbing my cooler, heading for my truck. Ethan called after me, "Don't be like that, man," but his voice had that same smug edge. I didn't look back. The drive home was a blur, Portland's streets quiet under the dusk. My mind churned, was this who Ethan had always been? Had I been blind, thinking we were still those fort-building kids? By the time I parked at my apartment, the hurt had hardened into something else, resolve. Ethan didn't respect me, so he didn't get to be in my life. No big fight, no speech, just silence. I'd built my world with my own hands, and I wasn't letting him tear it down. As I unlocked my door, the weight of his words lingered, the poor one. They stung because they weren't true, but also because he'd said them to feel big. I thought of my workshop, the oak table I was crafting, the hotel contract in my inbox. That was real. Ethan's world of suits and status? It was a house of cards, and I wouldn't be there when it fell. I powered off my phone, poured a coffee, and sat by my window, the city's lights steady. I was done chasing his approval. From now on, it was just me, my work, and the life I'd earned. After the barbecue, I shut Ethan out completely. No texts, no calls, no stopping by Mom's if I knew he'd be there. It wasn't dramatic, I didn't send a "we're done" message or block his number. I just stopped responding, like he'd stopped mattering. At first, I figured he wouldn't care. Ethan's life was a whirlwind of clients, cocktails, and new girlfriends. Why would he notice his poor brother going quiet? But he noticed, and fast. The first text came 2 days later. Yo, you good? Haven't heard from you. I ignored it. By day 5, he was annoyed. Seriously, you're mad about the barbecue? It was just a joke, man. Grow up. I deleted it, my jaw tight, and kept moving. His messages got nastier. Wow, you're really doing this? Ignoring your own brother? That's low, Thomas. Then the guilt trips. Mom's worried sick. You're stressing her out over some dumb comments. I've always had your back, and this is how you repay me? That one almost made me laugh. Ethan having my back? He'd spent years cutting me down, acting like my work was a punchline. I wasn't buying his victim act. I muted his number and threw myself into my carpentry, letting the rhythm of saws and sanders drown out his noise. Something shifted in me. I wasn't just cutting him off, I was reclaiming my space, my pride. Work became my refuge. A week after the barbecue, I got a call from a boutique hotel downtown. They'd seen my portfolio online and wanted custom furniture for their lobby, tables, benches, a reception desk. It was a $20,000 contract, the biggest I'd ever landed. I spent days sketching designs, sourcing walnut, working late in my workshop with the radio on. The focus felt good, like I was building more than furniture. When the hotel sent a deposit, I used it to buy a new work van, a used but sturdy Ford to replace my beat-up pickup. Driving it home, I thought of Ethan's jab about my small-time jobs. This van, paid in cash, was my answer, not to him, but to myself. Ethan's texts kept coming, though. By week 3, he was spiraling. You're acting like a selfish brat. Mom doesn't deserve this. You think you're some big shot now? Newsflash, you're still just a carpenter. I didn't bite. His words didn't hurt anymore, they just showed how desperate he was to keep me in his shadow. Meanwhile, my business was humming. The hotel job led to 2 more clients, a coffee shop needing tables, a lawyer wanting a home office remodel. I hired a part-time helper, a kid fresh out of trade school, and taught him how to joint wood. My income ticked up, my savings grew, and for the first time, I felt like I was running a real operation, not just scraping by. Then Mom called, her voice heavy with that familiar guilt. Thomas, you need to talk to Ethan. He's struggling. I leaned against my workbench, wiping sawdust off my hands. Struggling how? I asked, though I could guess. He won't say much, she said, but he's behind on bills. I think he sold his watch, the fancy one. He's your brother, Thomas. Maybe you could help. I took a breath, keeping my tone even. Mom, he mocked my life in front of everyone. He doesn't respect me. Why should I bail him out? She sighed, soft and sad. He's family. Family helps. I shook my head, though she couldn't see. He can figure it out. I did. I hung up, my chest tight but my resolve firm. Ethan had made his bed. A few days later, Ethan's tone changed. A text, Thomas, I'm sorry if I upset you. Can we talk? I didn't mean it. Too little, too late. I didn't reply. My life was moving forward, new clients, a feature in a local design blog, even a thank you note from the hotel manager with a bonus check. I framed the note in my workshop, a reminder of what I'd built without Ethan's approval. His world, all flash and bravado, was starting to crack, and I wasn't surprised. He'd always lived like money grew on trees, leasing cars he couldn't afford, dining at places that charged $50 for a salad. I'd seen the signs, his late-night texts about cash flow or big deals that never panned out. Now, it was catching up. As I locked up the workshop one night, Portland's rain pattering on my van, I felt a strange peace. Cutting Ethan off wasn't just about anger, it was about respect, for myself, my work, the life I'd carved out. His messages still came, but they were background noise, like a radio left on in another room. I didn't need his validation anymore. My hands, calloused from years of labor, had built something real. Ethan's voice couldn't touch that. I drove home, the city's lights blurred by rain, knowing I was standing taller than ever, while his world was starting to wobble. Ethan's life started unraveling, and I heard it in fragments. Mom called a couple weeks after our last talk, her voice tight. "He's not himself, Thomas. He sold his car, the Audi. I think he's behind on rent." I was sanding a table, the rhythm steadying me. "He'll bounce back," I said, not because I believed it, but to end the call. Then a friend of Ethan's, Mark, reached out. We'd met at the barbecue, one of the loafers and no socks guys. "Hey, Thomas," he said, awkward. "Ethan's in a hole. Credit cards, some sketchy loans. He's keeping it quiet, but it's bad." I thanked him for the heads up but said it wasn't my problem. Mark sighed, like he'd expected that. "Just watch out for him, okay?" "He's not okay." I hung up, picturing Ethan's smug grin from that night, now fading under the weight of his choices. My world, meanwhile, was solid. The hotel job wrapped, and the manager sent a glowing review that landed me a contract with a tech startup for their office furniture. I hired another helper, bought new tools, and watched my bank account grow. I wasn't rich, still far from Ethan's old lifestyle, but I was comfortable, debt-free, and proud. My workshop hummed with projects, and I started teaching my crew small tricks, like how to read wood grain. It felt good, like I was building more than tables. But Ethan's shadow lingered. Mom kept dropping hints, saying he needed support, and I kept shutting it down. I wasn't his safety net. Then Ethan showed up. It was a Tuesday, mid-afternoon, and I was in my workshop showing a client some chair designs. My assistant, Jake, poked his head in. Some guy's here. Says he's your brother." My stomach sank. I excused myself, stepping outside to find Ethan pacing by my van. He looked rough, shirt wrinkled, hair greasy, no trace of his usual polish. "Thomas, we gotta talk," he said, voice loud, ignoring Jake's attempt to calm him. The client glanced over, and I cringed. "Not here," I said, steering him to the alley behind the shop. "What are you doing, Ethan? You can't just barge in." He crossed his arms, eyes wild. "You're ignoring me when I'm drowning out here." "I lost my job, Thomas. I'm months behind on rent, creditors are calling." "You're doing fine, right? Help me out." His tone was half demand, half plea, like he still thought he could charm his way through. I kept my voice low, steady. "You mocked my life, Ethan. Called me the poor one in front of your buddies. Why should I help you now?" He scoffed, but it was shaky. "Oh, come on, that was a joke. You're gonna let that ruin us? I'm your brother." I stepped closer, meeting his gaze. "You've spent years looking down on me. I'm done. Fix your own mess." His face twisted, anger flaring. "You think you're better than me? Some carpenter playing big shot? You'll regret this when you're begging for my help one day." I didn't flinch. "Leave, Ethan. Don't come back here." He stared, like he couldn't believe I'd stand my ground, then stormed off, kicking a crate as he went. Jake watched from the door, wide-eyed, but I just shrugged and went back to the client, apologizing. Inside, my heart was pounding, but I felt taller, like I'd finally drawn a line Ethan couldn't cross. Mom called that night, her voice heavy. "Ethan told me what happened. He's falling apart, Thomas. Can't you help, just a little? He's family." I gripped the phone, staring at my workshop's tools, each one bought with my own money. "Mom, he doesn't respect me. He's never cared about my life. I'm not bailing him out. He needs to learn." She sighed, defeated. "I just hate seeing him like this." I softened but held firm. "I know, but he made this mess. Let him face it." After we hung up, I sat in my apartment, Portland's skyline dim through the rain. Ethan's world was collapsing, and part of me felt a flicker of pity, but not enough to bend. Mark called again a few days later, updating me. "Ethan's crashing with a friend now. Sold most of his stuff, watches, suits. He's got debts piling up, like $50,000, maybe more. He's scared, man. I listened, my mind drifting to Ethan's barbecue smirk, his poor one jab. Thanks for telling me, I said, but he's on his own. Mark didn't push. As I hung up, I thought about my own life, bills paid, new clients calling, a crew that looked up to me. Ethan had mocked my small-time work, but it was keeping me steady while his flash crumbled. I wasn't gloating, just clear, my roots were deep, his were shallow. And I wasn't digging him out. Months passed, and Portland's spring rain brought a fresh start. My workshop was busier than ever, new contracts, a crew of 3 now, and a feature in a local crafts magazine. I'd expanded, renting a bigger space, and started teaching woodworking classes on weekends, passing on what I'd learned. My income hit $90,000 last year, enough for a modest house I was eyeing, no mortgage needed. The barbecue felt like a distant memory, but it had changed me. Cutting Ethan off wasn't just about anger, it was about respecting myself, my work, the life I'd built with my own hands. I didn't miss his shadow, but I wondered, sometimes, what had become of him. Then, out of the blue, a letter arrived. It was in Ethan's handwriting, shaky but clear, postmarked from a nearby town. I almost tossed it, expecting another plea or excuse, but curiosity won. Sitting at my kitchen table, coffee steaming, I opened it. Thomas, it began, I don't know if you'll read this, but I owe you this. I'm sorry for how I treated you, for the barbecue, for all the years I acted like I was better. I was wrong. Watching you build your life, steady and real, while mine fell apart, it's humbled me. I've lost my job, my condo, most of my friends. I'm working a desk job now, living with a buddy, trying to climb out of debt. Your strength showed me what I lacked. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm changing. Thank you for standing your ground. I read it twice, the words sinking in. Ethan, the guy who'd always landed on his feet, was admitting he'd fallen. It wasn't gloating that stirred in me, but a strange mix of relief and distance. I folded the letter, tucking it into a drawer. I wasn't ready to call him, to rebuild what we'd had. Too much had been broken. But for the first time I saw a flicker of the brother I'd loved as a kid, the one who'd built forts with me, not the one who'd mocked my dreams. Mom called a week later, her tone lighter. Ethan's doing better, she said. He's got a job, nothing fancy, but steady. He talks about you, Thomas, says he messed up. I nodded, stirring my coffee. I got his letter, I said. She paused, hopeful. Will you reach out? I sighed. Not yet, Mom. Maybe someday. She didn't push, and I was grateful. For years, she'd leaned toward Ethan, her golden boy, but now I sensed a shift. She'd started asking about my work, even visited the workshop, marveling at a cedar bench I'd carved. You've built something special, she'd said, and I saw pride in her eyes, not just for him. I thought about the barbecue often, how Ethan's words, the poor one, had lit a fire in me. They'd hurt, but they'd also clarified what mattered. I didn't need his approval, or anyone's, to know my worth. My workshop, my crew, the clients who shook my hand with thanks, that was real. Ethan's world of flash, built on leased cars and maxed out cards, had collapsed because it was hollow. His letter said he was learning that now, and I hoped it was true. But I wasn't his savior, and I didn't owe him a quick fix. If he wanted to rebuild, he'd have to do it himself, like I had. My life kept growing. I mentored my crew, taught kids in my classes to respect the wood, not rush the grain. I saved for that house, picturing a yard where I could plant trees, maybe start a family one day. I joined a local artisans group, swapping stories with other makers, potters, welders, folks who valued craft over clout. Holidays were spent with them, or Mom, who'd stopped pushing me to fix Ethan. I kept a small gift in my desk, a carved wooden box for Ethan's daughter, if he ever had one, or maybe for a kid of my own someday. It was a reminder, build for the future, not the past. Standing in my workshop, the rain tapping the roof, I felt a quiet strength. Portland's skyline shimmered through the haze, steady as my roots. Ethan's letter was a start, not an end. Maybe we'd find our way back, maybe not. But I'd learned to stand tall, to protect my peace. His downfall wasn't my victory, it was his lesson. I'd keep building, one piece at a time, knowing my work, my life, was enough. As the saw hummed and wood shavings fell, I smiled, grounded in the roots I'd grown, ready for whatever came next.